All right, this is the last section in Chapter 7. We are going to talk about interest. And we're actually only talking about simple interest, so you can just scribble out that and compound. Learn about that later on in your life. But for right now, we're just going to talk about simple interest. So if we kind of concentrate here on the vocabulary words first, what interest is, it is an amount of money that is charged for borrowing or using money. For instance, if you put your money in a savings account, you earn interest off that money. So the bank is borrowing your money, so they pay you for borrowing your money. Simple interest, which is what we're talking about today, is money paid only on the principal. And what a principal is the amount of money deposited or borrowed. So when I put my money into that savings account, if I put $500 in that savings account, that $500 is my principal, and I earn interest off of that $500. And the annual interest rate is how you figure out how much money you're going to earn. And it is the percent of the principal earned or paid per year. And this is the formula we're going to use. It's a really good formula to commit to memory. If you're looking for interest, you are going to take P times R times E. T. So I equals PRT, which means interest equals the principal times the rate of interest times time in years. Okay, now we're also going to need to add one formula here. So on top of interest, because that's just how much money you're earning. If you want to know what your balance is going to be, which we're going to let stand for A, you're going to take your principal, so the money you initially deposited, plus that interest you earned. And we just saw that you find the interest by taking PRT. So if you're just looking for the balance, what you can do is you can take P times 1 plus RT. And why we can do this, if you kind of take a step back, if I distribute out this P times 1 gives me P. And if I distribute it to the RT, P times R times T gives me PRT. So kind of a simple, you can use either one. They mean the same thing. They will do the same thing. So let's jump into some examples. So I have 4 examples here, and we are going to be talking about an account that earns simple interest. I want to find the interest, and I want to find the balance of the account. So for the first example, I have a principal of $1,500. So let's say this is a savings account. I deposit $1,500. My interest rate is 2.4%, and I'm going to leave it in there for 6 years. Okay, so first, let's find the interest. Now remember, interest is equal to principal times the rate times the time. So we're just going to substitute those numbers in there. So instead of principal, I'm going to substitute in 1,500. Instead of R, I'm going to substitute in 2.4%. And instead of T, I'm going to substitute in 6. Now one thing I want to point out, not relevant in this problem necessarily, that T is time in years. Okay, so be very careful with that. Okay, now just like always, if I have a percent, I need to change that to a decimal. So instead of 2.4%, I'm going to write 24 hundredths times 6. Okay, well now it's just a multiplication problem. If you multiply all those out, you should get an interest rate of $216. So after 6 years of putting your $1,500 in this account, you're making $216. So now if you want to know what your balance is, you're going to take your principal, so that money that you put in the account, plus that interest you earned. So your final balance is $1,716. Okay, let's do, this time I have a principal of $500, but I have a rate of 5%, and I'm only going to leave it in there for 5 years. Okay, let's find the interest first. So remember, I equals PRT. So instead of P, let's plug in 500. Instead of R, I'm going to substitute in 5%. And if we're kind of thinking ahead, we don't usually multiply with percent, so let's change it to a decimal. and t, we're going to plug in 5. Okay, if I multiply all those numbers together, I should get 125. So after 5 years, I would earn $125. So if I want to find my balance, I'm going to take my initial principal, I'm going to add the interest that I earned for a new balance of $625. Okay, just a couple more. Let's do one more together and have you do the last one on your own. So let's say for this one I have a principal of $750. I have a rate at 2 5/10% and only going to leave it in there for 2 years. Okay, so to find the interest first, I'm going to take P times R times T. It's all just substituting numbers into a formula. It's really not too bad. So when I multiply all those out, you should get an interest earned of $37.50. So to find my account balance, I'm going to take my principal, add in that interest that I earned for a final account balance of $787.50. Okay, once you guys do this last one on your own, if I have a principal of $2,100 at a rate of 6% and time being 6 years. So go ahead, pause the video, plug those numbers into that formula, find my interest and my account balance. All right, you should have gotten interest earned of $756 and an account balance of $2,856. Okay, I really like this next question, so let's talk about this. Avery deposits $6,000 in an account that earns 4% simple interest paid annually. How long will it take for the total amount of his account to reach $6,800? There's 2 ways that you can do this. Probably the more popular way is setting up a table. Okay, so if I set up a table for what the balance is going to be after so many years, and whenever I get to 6,800, I can stop. I know what year it is. So we can find what the balance will be after 1 year, after 2 years, after 3 years, after 4 years, and so on. So if I want to find what the balance will be after 1 year, remember we have that formula where we can take P times 1 plus R times T. Okay, so if I plug in P, my principal was $6,000, and then 1 plus, my rate is 4%, and the time is just 1 year, right, because it's just that first year. Okay, so I get 6,000 times 1 4/100. So after that first year, my balance is $6,240. Okay, so I'm not where I want to be yet. So this is just for year 1. Okay, for year 2, we're going to do the same thing, except instead of taking 4/100 times 1, we're going to take 4/100 times 2. Okay, so I have 6,000 times 4/100 times 2 gives me 8/100, so 1 8/100. And when I multiply those out, I should get a balance of 6,480. Okay, so still not quite there. Now, instead of plugging all of this into the formula, we earn the same amount of money each year. And you should notice that if my balance started at 6,000, and then the next year I earned 6,240, and then the next year I earned 6,480, every year I earn $240, right? Hopefully you can establish that. So if instead of plugging all this into the formula, I just keep going and I add 240, after 3 years, I should earn 6,720. Still not where I want to be, so if I add another 240, I would get 6,960, which is where I want to be. So it's over, but it's still going to take me 4 years to earn that money. Now, I said that was probably the easiest way because it's pretty foolproof, but what we can also do is we can set up an equation. So down here, we're going to set up an equation. Now, I know that I want my account balance to equal $6,800. Okay, we have this formula that says A equals P plus PRT, or we could use P times 1 plus RT, either one. Gonna get the same answer either way. Let's use this first one here. Let's plug in the numbers that we know. Okay, so I know I want my account balance to be $6,800. I know my principal was $6,000. That other P, well, that's the same, right? I'm just plugging in numbers in this equation here. Okay, I know what my rate is. My rate is 4%. What I'm looking for is my time. Okay, well, now it's just solving an equation, right? So if I simplify the things that I can on that right-hand side, I can take 6,000 times 4/100, and I will get 240 times t. And solving a two-step equation, we want to subtract 6,000 from both sides. So we get 800 equals 240t. Divide both sides by 240. And you would get t equals 3.3 repeating. So if I want to know how many years, I'm looking for whole years. So I would have to round up, so it would still be 4 years. So both methods work. You get the same answer, just whatever one clicks better with you.